On April 4, 1977, Southern Airways Flight 242 took off from Huntsville, Alabama, on a routine trip to Atlanta. A short flight, a familiar route, and a flight crew with decades of experience. To every passenger on board the DC-9, nothing felt unusual. But within 1 hour, this aircraft would be caught in one of the most violent thunderstorms in American aviation history. A storm powerful enough to tear a jet engine apart. This is the story of a flight that lost everything: engines, visibility, and control, yet still fought desperately to save lives. This is Southern Airways Flight 242. The aircraft was a McDonnell Douglas DC-931, a reliable short-haul jet. At the controls, Captain Bill McKenzie, a highly respected aviator with over 19,000 flight hours. Beside him, First Officer Lyman Keele, experienced and calm under pressure. As the crew reviewed their weather briefing that morning, they saw storms forming along their route. But to them and to dispatch, the radar signatures looked manageable. The system showed scattered rainstorms, nothing too severe. What neither side knew was that the radar image was incomplete, outdated, and dangerously misleading. Storm cells were exploding in intensity, thunderheads rising like towers. Wind gusts, hail, and violent updrafts converged into the kind of supercell that pilots dread. Southern Airways Flight 242 was heading straight toward it. As the DC-9 approached northern Georgia, the cockpit radar displayed a glowing mass of precipitation. But the color palette was deceptive. What looked like moderate rain was actually extreme weather. The radar couldn't see the most intense part because it was so dense it created a shadow of false clarity behind it. The crew believed they were flying into a gap. They weren't. They were entering the core of a supercell thunderstorm. Within seconds, the aircraft was bombarded by massive hailstones. The windshield cracked, then shattered. The engines began ingesting solid ice at high speed, something no engine is designed to survive. And then, the unimaginable happened. Both engines lost power. One after the other, they failed completely. Southern Airways Flight 242 had become a powerless glider, trapped inside a storm with no forward visibility, no thrust, and only seconds to react. Captain McKenzie tried to restart the engines. He attempted every checklist, every backup method, but nothing worked. The hail had torn apart the internal compressor blades. The engines were beyond recovery. First Officer Keele scanned for options. They couldn't climb. They couldn't turn back. They were sinking through turbulence with no instruments that could be trusted. The only chance left was to glide toward a highway. Imagine the view from the cockpit. Rain blasting through the broken windshield, a deafening howl of wind, no thrust, no time, just a blurry outline of rural Georgia below. The captain made a courageous decision. They would attempt an emergency landing on Highway 92, a narrow strip of asphalt in New Hope, Georgia. It was the only flat surface within reach. As the aircraft descended, the storm began to clear just enough to reveal the road ahead. Cars were moving. Power lines lined the edges. The highway curved and rose unpredictably, never designed for an aircraft. Still, the crew committed. There was no alternative. In the final seconds, the pilots fought to keep the jet aligned with the road. But the DC-9 clipped a gas station sign, then trees, then cars. The aircraft broke apart and slid through the small community of New Hope before coming to rest in pieces. The crash was devastating. 63 people lost their lives, including both pilots who refused to abandon their aircraft. But incredibly, 22 passengers survived, and several people on the ground also lived through the impact. The crew's choice to land on a highway rather than attempting to reach Atlanta or a distant airport saved many of those survivors. Their courage and their sacrifice would later be recognized as heroic. In the investigation that followed, the National Transportation Safety Board uncovered several contributing factors. The radar system used outdated sweeps. The storm intensified faster than predicted. The pilots were given incomplete weather data. Hail ingestion caused catastrophic dual-engine failure. The windshield failure left the crew with almost no visibility. Southern Airways Flight 242 highlighted a dangerous gap in weather reporting and radar interpretation. It also showed the need for better engine protection against severe hail, something manufacturers would later address. Today, the legacy of Flight 242 is seen in improved weather radar systems, stricter storm avoidance procedures, and clearer cockpit training for severe thunderstorms. But beyond the technical lessons, the story of Southern Airways Flight 242 is also a story of courage under impossible pressure, of a crew that fought every second to bring their passengers home, and of a community forever changed by a disaster that arrived from the sky with almost no warning. This is the legacy of Southern Airways Flight 242 and the lessons